everyone. This time I'd like to call to order the August Macon County Board Commission meeting. Please bear with us. I know we have a dozen or so people in the overflow room, but the technology is so much better down here. Can you hear me? The technology is so much better down here. At least we don't have a microphone down here. So bear with us. We're going to try to keep it down here. And thanks to each and every one of you for showing up here tonight. All right. Let's start off with announcements. Ms. Neal. Manager Kate.
So, Mr. Chairman, I do have one just point of information for the general public. The construction on the boardwalk at Arthur Drake Road has started, so that parking lot is still there, but it's basically inaccessible. So the temporary parking lot is there off of Depot Street extension right there at the intersection of Iowa Street, and hopefully within several weeks that project will be completed.
Commissioner Breen.
Yes, I do have one announcement. I would like to thank the Macon County Sheriff's Department. I'm sure some of you have seen a little theft spring that was going on, but two of my side-by-sides were stolen a couple weeks ago from my store. And I just wanted to thank them for doing an amazing job of recovering probably over $100,000 worth of stolen product from a couple individuals here, but I'd like to name them by name if I could. First, I'd like to thank Taylor Carlton. I'm adding her to this list because she took the initial report with Franklin Police Department. But Joel Lynch, Ethan Ramsey, Sean McCall, Brandon Carter, Will Watson, Justin Riles, Daniel Long, Hunter Jameson, Cody Howard, David Loffrey, and Grayson Hall. I would just like to extend them a thank you for working so hard to recover those items and put those guys behind bars. Thank you.
Commissioner Antoine.
Good evening, and thank everyone for being here.
Commissioner Shields.
Good evening, glad you're here. Let's go. Rock and roll.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear what you guys are saying.
What about now? All right. Welcome, glad you're here. Let's rock and roll.
I'd just like to also thank you guys for being here and showing your interest in your county government and willingness to show up and express your concerns that's happening with your leadership and your county. So thank you very much.
Council. All right, at this time I'd like to ask Commissioner Shields to lead us in a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance.
Have a seat. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Shields. I understand we do have a public hearing tonight, and to consider amendment of Chapter 157 of Macon County Code of Ordinances to include update definitions of server-based facilities. We have 14 speakers. First speaker, Carol Light.
Good evening. My name is Carol Light, and I live in Scaly Mountain. I'm asking the board to reject data centers and cryptocurrency mining in Macon County, and to put a moratorium in place tonight while you continue to strengthen this ordinance. My focus is what these facilities do to our water and our power grid. Macon County already protects the Cartoogahay Creek and Colasaja River watersheds because they supply our drinking water. A large server facility can use thousands of gallons of water a day for cooling. North Carolina doesn't require an industrial water withdrawal permit for most of the state. Our county ordinance is the only thing standing between these facilities and our water supply. Your conscientious protection is therefore essential. I'm asking the board to require closed-loop cooling and to prohibit any new well or surface water withdrawal for these uses, and to require written proof from the water utility company that our supply can handle it without harming existing customers before any permit is issued. On power, these facilities run backup diesel generators and increasingly large lithium-ion battery banks. Those batteries carry real fire risk. Thermal runaway that firefighters cannot extinguish with water. This is what most people don't know. These batteries are classified by the federal government as hazardous material, yet trucks hauling them on our narrow mountain roads aren't required to carry a hazmat placard or have a hazmat endorsed driver. That's true coming in, and worse, still true when batteries may be damaged or hauled out for disposal. Just one accident and a forest fire could be started. I'm asking the board to require a separate larger setback for battery storage, advance notice to our fire departments before any battery shipment arrives or leaves, a fire response plan developed with our own department, and a guarantee that grid upgrade and emergency response costs are paid by the developer, not Macon County ratepayers, citizens, or taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, here.
All right, Lisa Lucas.
You call me? Good evening, commissioners, good evening. My name is Mace Lucas. I live in Scaly Mountain, North Carolina, and I'm here tonight because Macon County does not want data centers. We don't want cryptocurrency mines, we don't want AI server facilities here. I urge putting a moratorium on new applications tonight while you strengthen the ordinance already in front of you. I'd like to speak to two things this industry brings to our land that our landscape cannot absorb: light and noise. Macon County sits beside the Nantahala National Forest, one of the last genuinely dark places left in the East. No data center ordinance I'm aware of in North Carolina protects our night sky. I'm asking the board to add dark night sky standards, full cutoff fixtures, no uplighting, and a curfew outside operating hours. I don't know if there are any hours that they're not operating, but we'll see. I'd also like to address one of the other considerations, which is impact on our wildlife. The flight patterns of migratory birds and our pollinators. The entirety of life actually depends on light and dark, light and dark. We don't want to lose any more habitat as wildlife seeks to get further from these facilities. One other thing is noise. Residents near an existing crypto facility in neighboring Cherokee County have compared the sound to a jet taking off continuously for years and years ad infinitum, forever and ever. A decibel limit measured only in dBA misses the low-frequency hum that carries the furthest and bothers people the most. So the DBA, as I understand it, is the impact on the human ear, DBA. But there's more to it than that. So I'm asking the board to add a low frequency or DBC limit alongside whatever DBA standards are already in place or will be in place, and to require the operator of these facilities, not the taxpayers, to pay for a regular scheduled noise testing before the facility opens, and not afterward, and not after we complain, which we all know is pretty much a lost cause by then. And that's it. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Denise Mullins.
Hello. This is my first time here, so forgive me if I stutter a little bit. I'm here to ask or talk about the data centers and their diesel usage. It pollutes our air. There's been many documented medical reports from Virginia and other places that have these data centers of health increases, asthma-related health impacts, annual public costs, and 14,000 asthma-related deaths. We need to do something about the diesel. This can be covered with batteries instead of diesel backups. They don't run 24 hours a day, the diesel backups, but they will impact our health or anybody that is living close to these data centers. I have 2 kids, one has asthma, and I just can't afford the medical as most people can't anymore, and these data centers are just going to add to what's happening in our environment. So we need to restrict the diesel fuel backup generators and ask to go to batteries. They can do it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a base.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. Thank you for having this opportunity for us to speak to you. We really appreciate that. And we hope that you do this for other big decisions that may be looming on the horizon. My name is Betsy Baste, and I live in Otto. And I believe that you all think that you always have the community's best interest at heart. I believe that of you. I don't know whether or not that's always in alignment with what the community thinks, but I think that you believe so. And I'm always worried, though, that there is a potential for other interests to grab your attention. I was at the July Planning Board meeting, and I listened to the members of the Planning Board speak about data centers, and I was really, frankly, appalled that 2 people were not, the 2 people who were vocal were not on board with the people who are vocal. Many of them are in the room. And the comment was made, we don't have enough information to know that data centers are bad. Really, they can come use the internet at my house if they don't have the internet, because that's a crazy statement to make right now. So then the thought is, well, why are they making this statement? What do they have to gain? Well, one of them has already admitted that they have an NDA regarding the conversation, so that person should recuse themselves from this conversation altogether. That's Mark Henn. I'm frankly appalled that Mark Henn was not better vetted for his job on the Planning and Advisory Board, because with just a little tiny bit of digging, he did some bad stuff to his community where he lived in South Carolina. So I'm really upset that you all said, yeah, this is our guy, when he cost his other community a lot of money. And I certainly don't think he should be making decisions about data centers. Where he's from, the Google Center is currently permitted to draw 549 millions of gallons of water annually from the Charleston Aquifer.
Okay, so Ms. Bates, what we don't want to do is make any personal attacks on people, especially that aren't here to defend themselves.
Okay,
So,
okay.
I
I'm stating what I
understand
Okay.
what you've researched.
Yep.
I would just ask that you try to keep it limited to the issue that we're talking about. And again, we do have a proposed ordinance that's in front of you.
I understand.
The definition has been expanded since
Am I going to get a
last
few
month's
more
meeting.
minutes? Okay.
Yes, I'm
Not
sorry.
minutes, sorry. Don't need minutes. I can wrap it up, I get
Okay,
you.
fair enough.
I
I
hear
would
you.
just- yeah,
I hear
so-
you, I appreciate that. So what I'm going to ask then, in relation to data centers, is that you take a hard look at your planning board and you consider who's on the planning board and what they stand to gain by recommendation to you of what you should do. That's my request to you. And that you keep in mind what's good for your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Lisa Walker.
Good evening. Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity. When I got the ordinance packet that came out and I saw the hours of operation, I was like, yes, this is good. And then I got on Google and I started doing some research into what other towns, what other counties our size who have no zoning have in place for to deter data centers operations and development. And they have all the things that they just mentioned. Noise thresholds, power consumption, water consumption thresholds. They had all of that. They didn't have anything about hours of operation. And I thought, well, that's weird. So then I went down the rabbit trail of trying to find out, is having hours of operations a good deterrent for county ordinance? And this is the data that I got back, and you have already seen this because I sent that to you, and you can go and follow the links, but the quote was, limiting data center operations to certain hours is legally vulnerable and the least defensible way to do it. Since data centers operate 24/7, a nighttime shutdown requirement would effectively be a ban. The proposed changes communicate intent, but is a poor substitute for legally grounded land use strategy. It's easier to attack as arbitrary, preempted, beyond county authority, or an unreasonable restriction on a lawful business. It also does not target the actual harms that were discussed earlier. So what I'm asking you guys to do today, this is a really big deal, and I think we have to button it up tight. I'm asking that you put a moratorium, do a temporary moratorium, so we can work with the town of Highlands, the town of Franklin, and other counties who have ordinances that are a little bit tighter structured. So, thank you.
Neely.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Constance Neely. I'm from Scaly Mountain. Scaly Mountain's well represented. The amendments are appreciated. We really appreciate the work that's been done, but they are not strict enough. So I think we absolutely need to adopt a moratorium tonight. No data center application has been filed in Macon County yet, as far as I've heard. And that's our strongest legal position, because once an application is complete, state laws protect that project, even from a later moratorium. More than 20 of our counties, including Clay County, have already paused new applications while finishing stronger rules. And we don't want to be a county that waited too long. Let's make them stronger. Secondly, we've got to close loopholes. There are many still left there. We need to make sure that we say in there that we treat commonly owned parcels as one facility. We require decommissioning bonds so taxpayers aren't left with an abandoned building and land degradation. We require a public hearing for every application. There's no automatic approval, and we don't let violation penalties get negotiated down to where it's just like, oh, we can pay for that. Let's just do it, right? By the businesses. So one thing I wanted to check on is I want to make sure that the language covers future technologies that are related. because there are so many ways to get around these. And in Cherokee County, there was a facility that converted from crypto to AI to escape the town's ban. So we got our work cut out for us still, and thank you for listening.
Bob, good. Sorry. Here.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. One of the subject I want to talk about is transparency. That's something we hear a lot about lately. I'm here, like other citizens, to ask for transparency from our sheriff, not the sheriff's office.
Bob, let me interrupt you real quick. This is a public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's another sheet right here.
Well, I thought I put on that. Okay.
I've got your public hearing. I'll still allow you to sign here.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I thought it was. Okay.
Would you like to speak on the data centers?
No, I don't have anything to do with that.
Lorraine Ross.
Hello, commissioners and staff. I'm Lorraine Ross. I live here in Franklin. I'm happy to be here to share my views on the data center ordinance. I'm asking you to recommend a moratorium, to take some time, take a breath, and really also establish a data center committee or a task force. Many communities in our area, obviously Franklin has done a moratorium, as has Highlands. There are 30 across North Carolina, there are 30 counties, towns or counties and cities who have already adopted ordinances, moratoriums mostly, across the state. We're all struggling with trying to invent the same wheel, right? It's the definition that we have in here right now is really not adequate. It doesn't allow for small data centers. What does that mean? There's no exceptions in there for a small data center that would be like 2 megawatts and under. How would that manage, how would that impact us here? Many hospitals operate on that. Many schools or school districts are operating on, you can be considered to be data centers that size. So we need a lot more thought about this. I would also add that I took a look at, in addition to the new state law that took away the tax incentives for data centers, and that was included in the last budget that the governor signed and the legislature approved, obviously. There's 3 bills that are pending on data centers, one of which directs UNC Chapel Hill to come up with direction as to how to assess what is the water impact, what is the soil impact, what is the noise level impact, how do we do all that, impact on our own infrastructure. So I'm just saying that I think we have time. I think we have a little bit of time to look at and gather more information. I did look into it, our adjoining counties. Swain County has adopted a two-year moratorium and has established this task force that I mentioned. Clay County has done an outright ban on data centers. Now, I recognize that there are conditions there that do not apply here. They do have zoning ordinances, we do not. I understand that. However, I would ask you to take a look at how they're defining these data centers. They're doing the adequate exemptions for small data centers and other essential uses. So with that in mind, I'm advocating for a moratorium and establishment of a work group on this topic. It brings some experts to the table. Thank you.
John, Tab, go Tab.
Hello all. Thank you for the opportunity. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Excellent. Yes, so I've been here in Macon County for six years and appreciate a lot of some of the positive things that have happened. So I'm not here to talk about data centers, although what I'm wanting to talk about definitely feeds into that. A lot of people have talked about cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence for, cute cat videos. I really think that the whole mass surveillance really ties in. If you think about how much data a Flock or an Axon or a similar kind of plate reader, and we all know by now they can read everything. Now, I wasn't here last month, but I have talked with a lot of people, so I believe I'm mostly caught up. If I'm missing any information, feel free to fill me in. But my opinion with the whole surveillance of the flock, we are not done. I think we've made some really good steps.
Let me interrupt you right now. So
yes.
We're in a public hearing based on server-based facilities. Feel free to sign up for the public comment period. It'll be in just a few minutes.
Okay, so I was confused. I thought this was the public comment.
Public comment.
Okay.
So you were kind of tied together, and I was trying.
That's why I prefaced it.
With it, but
yeah.
All right. If you don't mind, let's focus on data centers at this point.
Sure. And when would I talk about that?
Sign up on that sheet right there.
Yes.
In probably 10 or 15 minutes. Well, maybe an hour.
That's a real good range.
All right. Amy Patterson. So if you're on this list and I call your name, please note this pertains to data centers. Okay? If you want to speak on something else, it's on the public comment list.
Good evening, y'all. Back again. And a lot of the things that I was going to say have already been said, so I'm going to try and not waste your time because I think you know what the issues are. But the one thing I would like to say is the moratorium state law is 160D 107, and you can make the moratorium for a specified period of time, or you can make the moratorium until you have tightened your rules, you know, if you want to do that. The one thing that has not been mentioned about the specific ordinance that is on the floor today is making the data center a conditional use or special use permit as opposed to a use by right. In other words, the way it is right now is if you have a data center, we have an ordinance that covers the enforcement of it, but we don't actually have any way of negotiating what you can and cannot do, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And if you make it be a special use or what they call a conditional use, then you're able to actually say, okay, if this is going to come in here, then we want, if you're going to have diesel engines, and they got to be tier 4 diesel engines, which are the least polluting, the most efficient. They have to run on a PUC, which is 1.2, which is an efficiency thing. They have to have only down lighting or dark sky lighting. They can't have up lighting. They have to have, we don't even have it where as big as those things can be, you can have, I think you actually need a stormwater ordinance to tie into these kind of things because they can be massive. Not as parking lots, but as impervious surface, whether you have detention centers, those kind of things. Whether you have a closed system, water system, not an evaporative system. They're even starting air systems, they're starting molten salt systems, and so the technology would change. These are the kind of things that if you have that be a by use thing, that you can actually figure out what works best in a particular situation. But there's a lot of problems with the ordinance that we have now, mainly because it's very vague, non-specific, and basically unenforceable, either as an enforcement thing or a legal thing. And let me just say, I have a lot of experience and have learned a lot of lessons from our mistakes when we don't do ordinances correctly. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to say thank you for your focused attention on this subject of data centers and actually taking steps to protect our community in that way. It's been really nice to see people from different backgrounds and different beliefs and political leanings come together to protect our town and our county. It does show that we have the ability to come together and to protect one another whenever it comes to our county. Right now, we're navigating this vast, unknown, really world of what's happening all over our country. And when I think about the impacts, I think about our environment. I grew up hunting, fishing, rafting, kayaking, and camping. It was a part of my family. It's easy to see that we live in a very special part of Western North Carolina. We live in a place where our value is our environment. It's our forest, it's our rivers, it's our trails, and it's our wildlife. As many of you know, a data center in our county would vastly affect our environment. We need companies and small businesses that see that value to come here and help our community grow, not companies that want to strip its resources, destroy its appeal, and devalue our properties, all for their personal profit. I would urge you that we do need people on any of our town committees that have a proven track record of making good decisions for the communities they work for. People that don't create concern and mistrust in what they may decide or support. People that know this community, value the opinions and concerns of the people who live here, and want to see this community grow in a way that respects what we have been blessed with.
Pitt. I guess that was a joke, wasn't it?
Yes.
Sarah Johnson. They got you.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Johnson. I'm an Otto resident. I'm here speaking against the data centers being built, and I support a moratorium. I support any strengthening of any permit, regulation, anything you can think of, any little weasel word they got, find it, block it. To be clear, I'm referring to the hyperscale data centers that span acres and consume 5 million gallons or more water. And I fear that any lack of preventative measures will cause Maconians to suffer, whether that's the loss of drinking water, the rising power bills, because 20% of Macon County residents are food insecure and they can't afford rising power bills. The loss of farmland for data center construction, which contributes to the food insecurity, and the health problems from the air and noise pollution. At the planning board meeting, I raised concern with one of the planning board meetings members having signed an NDA in his past in Berkeley County, South Carolina, for a data center. The residents there have reported water issues and a lack of transparency. Lastly, if you don't want flock cameras or any of the other, we don't even know what they're going to come up with next. We don't want it. And please oppose the data centers that power them, that control them, that run them. Thank you.
Heather Johnson. I'll give her a minute. Just Heather Johnson. I'm sure she's in the other room. They're sisters.
Hey, my name's Heather Johnson. I'm an Otto resident. I'm here to thank the county for taking the issues of data centers so seriously. Getting ahead of this issue is key to preventing them. As we have seen at the last planning board meeting, there may have already been at least one member of that board who has signed a non-disclosure agreement that had to do with data centers. Therefore, proactive changes to our laws and ordinances need to be made, and we encourage this board to do so to the fullest extent of their ability. Let's not wait until it's too late, like Monk's Corner, South Carolina. And I want to thank you, John Sherrill, very particularly for all of the diligent internet information you've been putting out there, because sometimes it's hard for government to get the information to the people, and I can tell that you've been working really hard on that, so thank you.
All right, would anybody else like to speak addressing server-based facilities?
May I?
Yes, you may. And also, last call for the, come on up, Mary. Last call for the other room as well. You have to Mary. Right after her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Ann Ingram, and I've lived in this county for 30 years, 33 years, in fact. And something just occurred to me listening to what everyone else has said. And I have spoken with, it was another commissioner, about a situation that I encountered. And I think I talked with you, John, last year about it. There is water being taken from our county, big barrels of it. I did talk to you. And they're taking it to Atlanta and selling it in bottles. And I know this because I've researched the company, and they're just not too far from where I live. And just occurred to me, listening to everyone, is what if these data centers got under the wire, and instead of pulling water out, what if they were buying from this individual? And he has, the state regulations is just tons of water can be taken out. You have to reach, like 600,000 gallons a month before you've gone too far. And so, what if one of these companies contracted with an individual who was sucking water out of our reservoirs? And instead of doing it the way that we've been discussing in here. I mean, that just occurred to me. So consider all the options when somebody wants to make money. Thank you, guys.
Good evening. My name is Katie Horn. I live in Franklin. Thank you for allowing us to come speak to you tonight about data centers. And I want to address health risks of data centers. I'm going to talk about air pollution first. Pollution from the U.S. data centers could contribute to approximately 1,300 premature deaths annually by 2030. Fossil fuel powered plants and diesel backup generators, which we've heard about, power data centers. They emit nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, and other toxic pollution, increasing respiratory disease and cardiovascular conditions and cancer risks. Individual data centers may stay below pollution release limits, but clusters of them can exceed the emissions on a single gas-fired power plant, significantly impacting air quality nearby. And a data center development in, is that me? In Homer City, Pennsylvania, estimated to produce 17 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions, equivalent to burning 18 billion pounds of coal or 39 million barrels of oil. Noise pollution, which a lot of people don't think about that causing health risks. Data center HVAC system, diesel backup generators, and cooling towers produce a continuous hum made up of low frequency noise. Someone spoke about that earlier. It can travel further than any other sounds and penetrate building structures. Low frequency noise exposure can significantly impair critical reasoning and decision-making functions. Chronic noise exposure can cause tinnitus, sleep disturbances, blood pressure elevation, muscle cramps, mental fatigue, cardiovascular disorders, cognitive impairment, annoyance, and elevated stress, with greater impacts observed at higher volume levels. And we've heard about this before with the Havana syndrome. Heard that before. Few communities in the U.S. have policies that are designed to effectively protect public health from exposure to noise based on research about health impacts and noise in other contexts with comparable facilities. Data center noise pollution would be expected to have a detrimental health impact. I've got light pollution, increased cost, and wasted water. Let's talk about climate change. I'll read that one. More than half of the electricity used to power U.S. data centers comes from burning fossil fuels. And it seems like we should be trying to get away from that, but we're not. Data center capacity is expected to double from 2025 to 2030. Burning fossil fuels creates emissions that contribute to climate change. Greenhouse gas emissions contribute to extreme temperatures, more intense storms, worse droughts, stuff that we're already experiencing.
Ms. Katie, I hate to do this to you.
Okay.
But I'm going to be a stickler.
That's okay.
Thank you. Anybody else in the other room wish to speak?
I'd like to speak if that's all right. I missed this on a sheet.
Please state your name for the record.
My name's Chuck Watson. Thank you for hearing me today. Met with you last month and admitted that didn't know a lot about data centers, so I gave myself some homework, and I did learn, and I won't take much time. I won't go through all the topics most of everybody's talked about. The topic I'll talk about, two things, is the immense energy it takes to run a data center. That's going to Duke Energy of the Carolinas will have to expand their infrastructure, which was normal, and it'll be on our backs. Everybody's in this room on a data center. But one thing that I've learned about the water consumption of a data center is so immense. Ms. Carroll spoke first, and she said thousands of gallons. And from what I've learned, it's millions of gallons of water. And I thought, well, you know, where's it going? So I found that it's evaporative cooling. So it's cooling, and it's mainly in the warmer months, not necessarily in January, but evaporative cooling uses millions of gallons of water, which makes it Macon County a pretty unlikely place to do that. We don't have millions of gallons of water that I'm aware of to spare that our county needs. So that's about all I'm going to say today.
Jeff. Reluctant to ask, but is there anybody else? In the other room, anybody else? You don't see anybody coming? All right, this time I'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen?
Well, Chairman, at this time as a liaison to the Macon County Planning Board, I think it would be in the best interest if we could get the chairman of the planning board or Joe Allen to speak on what we have actually, the work that has been done with the planning board and how the planning board came up to the decision of adopting the changes to the ordinance that's presented to us tonight and everyone has spoken on. And also I think it would be great to have the county attorney to tell us also how we came to that and limiting the actual use and construction of a data center in Macon County with the restrictions that are in place.
That's me. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I don't know which board it was, this board or previous board had passed a ordinance that regulated, it didn't specifically say data centers, I believe it said cryptocurrency mining facilities and server-based exchanges, something like that language. And council advised that there may be some vulnerabilities with our definitions. You guys sent it down to us with some edits. We thought you tidied up the edits pretty good and actually included the words data facilities or data server-based facilities, whatever the language that Attorney Radnauer recommended us to do. I believe you also added some hours in there, and I'm not sure if the 750 feet setback was original to the ordinance or if that was added as well. We looked at it and decided that time was somewhat of the essence because we were told there was some vulnerabilities. We recommended that you pass the edit changes with in mind. It is up to you guys if you want to do a moratorium. If you want to change the ordinance completely, that's totally up to you guys. But the changes probably should be made so that we can patch up whatever vulnerabilities there are in our current ordinance. Any questions from anybody? Joe, does that sum it up?
I think so.
Thanks for coming.
No problem.
Council?
Yeah.
Go ahead and stick around just a minute. I'd like to...
Okay, so at last month's meeting, we had some proposed language. We have expanded that definition a little bit since before it went to the planning board. So after last month's meeting, I did look a little closer at that. It's been expanded. It went to the planning board then last week. And so your definition of what is considered cryptocurrency mining, data centers, and server-based facilities is in your packet on page 5 of the ordinance. Also revised is the hours of operation, saying that those fall high-impact uses shall conduct operations only between the hours of 6 a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m., except those operations that fall under the definition of cryptocurrency, mining, data center, and server-based facilities, which shall be confined to operating between the hours of 8 o'clock a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. We expanded the use of O under 157.20 O, that cryptocurrency mining facilities likewise could not be used for within cargo containers, railroad cars, semi-truck trailers, and other storage containers. 157.21, we refined that. And so those are all in your packet. I spoke last month about why, from a legal standpoint, it is better to regulate than to completely prohibit. And I use an example. I got some feedback on it. I knew it wasn't probably the best example, but it was spot on to what I'm talking about. And even I've heard a lot of talk tonight about moratoriums, and moratoriums are actually easily attacked. When you bring in somebody with the financial ability and the, I guess, backing to attack a small community like ours, you've got to be spot on. So if you're going to enact a moratorium under 160D-107, you have to specifically find certain findings before enacting that moratorium. Because if somebody applies and they're denied, and they say they're denied because of the moratorium, then they get the moratorium overdone or overturned because you didn't enact the moratorium correctly, then you're out. You lost, because now you don't have an ordinance against it. You don't have any regulations against it. All you have is a moratorium. And in the moratorium, if you look at 160D-107D, there are certain things that county has to find, and those are that the problem county has to specifically find and identify the problem necessitating the moratorium. We can generally do that. Alternatives considered. All right. I was handed an ordinance or a moratorium that was done in North Carolina. I'm not going to call it out because I'm not criticizing their decision, but they have to find alternatives considered. They have to find what approvals are halted. They have to prove how the moratorium will address the problem. In my mind, saying that you're going to look at it further is not addressing the problem. And then you have to have the termination and work plan. So if any of those are attacked and successful, then you've got nothing. All right, so you can regulate them. And if you regulate it to the point that it's not going to happen, you're in a better, stronger legal position than if you take the moratorium or if you sit back and study it further. First step is, let's go ahead and make sure it ain't going to happen. All right? Yeah. So from a legal standpoint, this is the way that I believe that can be best accomplished. I appreciate the board's confidence in the way that Joe and I have worked together to craft this, and our understanding and experience in dealing with moratoriums and these type of issues. So my advice would be, let's adopt what we've got. We're free to revise it any time in the future if this somehow doesn't account for the unknowns in the future. If you start crafting ordinances to account for the unknown, you're just creating loopholes because you have no idea what you're talking about. And so that's why I would recommend we go with this rather than enacting in a moratorium.
So let me ask you something. Would a moratorium not be a double layer of protection? If we adopt that, would a moratorium on top of that be a bad thing?
You can come back and do a moratorium. If you're going to do it for longer than 60 days, you're going to have a full notice and hearing procedures that can likewise be attacked. So, in other words, yes, you can enact this today, and then if you wanted to come back and do a moratorium In addition to, you could do that, I think, I would have to, I haven't researched whether or not I think that would strengthen or weaken our position, but I could do that between now and then and give you all a recommendation as to whether or not you want to proceed with that, and then we could proceed with scheduling, that public hearing in the future. You can do 60 days or less.
What's the longest we can go with the moratorium?
I think it's a year.
That's the
Swain
longest?
County did 2 years.
Say again?
Swain County did 2 years.
Is that possible?
What other counties have done, I'm not going to question here, just because it's kind of irrelevant to what my advice is.
Well, we should have all known this was coming. I mean, you think about connectivity. Every household in America is searching for broadband. Our cell phones are 5G. All that stuff's got to go somewhere. So we should have followed and connected the dots through all this technology that this stuff was coming. But, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't care if every satellite in outer space blows up. I hate technology. I hate it with a passion. It's going to destroy mankind, and by saying that, I make a motion that we adopt the changes to the ordinance as presented.
I hear a motion by Commissioner Sherrill, second by Commissioner Breeden. Any other discussion?
Well, I gotta say, I'm absolutely not for these data centers, but I'm trying to understand what's the best way for us to protect the county. You all brought forth like a lot of information, but we're looking at the information and listening to legal counsel and trying to put all that together. So please try to understand from our perspective up here, we are trying to figure out what's the best way, but from where I sit right now, it doesn't sound like we still have the best solution right now.
Commissioner, if you read the restrictions on this, 750 feet setback, where's that going to happen in Macon County? I mean, we're surrounded by Forest Service lands, 750 feet. The restrictions on these data centers, Town of Highlands, Town of Franklin has a moratorium. We don't have water, we don't have sewer, and I think that is absolutely the first step of this. I would like to know that we could adopt a moratorium for a 12-month on top of this, but that may have to come at another meeting.
So I guess, we can start with this, to go to basically just as a starting point. It doesn't mean that we're limited to what we're adopting tonight. So I'm just trying to clarify for everyone's understanding where we're trying to go with this and understand each one of our positions sitting on this board. And again, publicly, I'm telling you, I'm not for these data centers. I don't feel like we should be allowing for anything like that to come in and interrupt what we have here. But at the same time, we need to figure out the best ways to do that. So it may be something that it takes a little bit of time, to get through, and I think that moratorium is definitely a way through it. So,
just a quick recap. I want to thank the chairman of our planning board for being here, and all your time, your board's time, and everyone's time. I think this is one of the few times that everybody in this room agrees with the task at hand, and I think layers are important. I like Eric's approach, Mr. Ladner's approach, and I think you guys have pressed forward some very valuable information that I think we'll consider. And I think Commissioner Sherrill's alluding to maybe next month or the following month doing a moratorium, and I think we're all on the same page here, so I feel good about it. Any other comments?
I agree.
All in favor, please raise your right arm, stay out for the record. Any opposed? Please let the record reflect the vote unanimous. Thank you, brother. All right.
Chairman.
This is the agenda.
I'm sorry. Should we actually start a discussion on this moratorium? Wait until the agenda for the September meeting? Should we try to, I guess, just wait?
I don't mind if you want to add it to the agenda. I think it's important to let the public speak. If you want to add it to this agenda, I think we can do that.
Yeah, I would, I guess, under old business, 10B, further discussion on the data center moratorium. And
any other additions?
Yeah, I've got, I'd like to add under new business 11D, discussion of mass surveillance systems in Macon County.
Any other discussion? Any other additions, I'm sorry. Sure. Mr. Holbrooks, that gentleman in the black shirt, if he wants to speak, he's welcome to add his name to the public comment. Let me see if he's still here. He's still here. First speaker, Kelly Curtis.
Hi, I'm Kelly Curtis. I'm from Otto, and first of all, I want to acknowledge how hard your job is, and I know you're in public service, and I can't even imagine how many communications, how many people you have to talk to, how much communication you get by email, and that's a huge amount of information. I also chose public service. I'm a retired teacher, and I know I put everything into it like you guys do. And so when you ran for this office, you made that commitment. Now, we have a constitutional republic, correct? And it's important that citizens have representatives they feel like represent them, that they're able to vote for those. And we can't hear you. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm talking about, I was talking about the fact that in our constitutional republic, every citizen has a need to be able to vote for a representation, both in local government as well as the other. Unfortunately, because of the way we have it set up to, and this isn't against any of you, it's just the way that commissioners are voted on, there are communities that feel like they don't get a voice in it. And that's because we have two at large, and because we have districts that have much larger population than some of the smaller districts. So when that happens, you've just got people, I mean, the districts that have the most population are choosing for everybody, and that sort of alienates people. Now, I know there's possible solutions for this. I know you guys been seeing some, trying to make a solution. The one I like is the one where we have 5 equal districts that have about 20% of the population, and they vote for their own representative. That way they know they have someone that they can speak to, ask questions of, go to for problems, go to for solutions. But that's just my voice. That's just one voice. One thing I always told my kids is the way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. And then you got to do all the working out. You got to pull out the best from each idea, put it together, and see what is going to actually be a good solution. When that happens, it's a wonderful thing. The thing is, I think you guys have so much on it. I'm just suggesting that it might be helpful if you create a committee who can do the research, who can look at the data, who can listen to public comments to see what would solve this problem for these communities that feel disenfranchised, that don't feel like they have a voice on this board. And that's all I'm asking. And I appreciate the work you do. It's not about you. It's about me hearing from people who said they don't have a voice, and that's all that is. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Bob Cook.
Sorry about that mistake earlier. My name is Bob Cook. I'm out from Oak Grove. Tonight I'm here to talk about transparency from the sheriff. His lack of transparency began shortly after his swearing in by shutting off the Facebook account. The Supreme Court has ruled on that, and they can either have one or two things. They can have no Facebook account, or it has to be open. Be that as it may. Over the last 3 years, there have been many occasions where transparency would have been very, very much welcomed by the sheriff. Several months ago, I requested public information on the training received by the criminal interdiction team. My answer from the county attorney was essentially that there were no records because there was no criminal interdiction team. However, As luck would have it, that same day, I got a picture from a citizen from the back of a patrol car that said, guess it, criminal interdiction team. So somebody is not connecting there. There has been many occasions where the sheriff could have been come forth with some little bit of transparency, whether it be the arrest of a detention officer, the ethical concerns doing business with a staff member, the criminal investigations of some of his officers, and the list goes on. Most recently, a lack of transparency regarding the flock system. There was a huge public outcry, and rather than releasing public data or making it accessible at least to those people that have requested it, public requests have been stonewalled. There is one final thing I want to mention. In the last county commissioner meeting, the chief deputy stood up, pointed at the county commissioner, and said he had committed a criminal offense. That's a pretty serious accusation. It sounded like an attempt to intimidate the county commissioner to most of us, but nonetheless, that is a serious charge and yet no basis of fact for the allegation. A little transparency on the part of the sheriff to come out and explain what happened there, or just to disavow it, and that his officer got away from himself, would have been nice. A little research shows that the policy for the Macon County Sheriff's Office regarding the flock cameras was dated December 1st, 2025. According to SBI records, the cameras appear to have been operational well before that. North Carolina State Statute under Article 3D, 20-183.31, states any state or local law enforcement agency using an automatic license plate reader must adopt a written policy governing its use before the automatic license plate reader system is operational. Now, where this is important is a stated penalty that is for anybody that violates the provisions of that article by obtaining, assessing, preserving, or disclosing data obtained in accordance with that article in a manner other than that allowed by the provision of this article is guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. For those keeping track, a Class 1 misdemeanor can be a maximum of 120 days in jail and a fine. That actually is a real crime. Not an emotional rant by somebody that was upset because of the rhetoric that was going on during that meeting. A transparent sheriff. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to cut you off. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Patty Trick.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you? I know that I'm so glad there's so many other things for us to talk about, but I'm going to bring us back to the library. My name is Patty Trick. I'm from Macon County. I'm here because I became curious about how books are selected in our Macon County libraries when the controversy arose 2 or 3 years ago over children's book displays with sexually explicit images. People all over the country, as I was doing my research, are protesting the exact same explicit books at the same time. So why is that? So how did every public library and school library from Anchorage, Alaska to Key West, Florida start promoting the same books starting the same year? It was obvious that the library book selection was being directed from a national level. So I did a little research. It all goes back to paid professional book reviewers and paid children's literature specialists who work for library book vendors. No surprise. They control most of the library purchases with their recommendations, so therefore it's a closed ecosystem. And that's why every library in the country just happened to promote the same books at the same time. Centralized control is the opposite of local control, and that's why this is a timely conversation. Our Macon County librarians buy thousands of books every year. They cannot possibly evaluate or read that many books. They rely on the recommendations of paid reviewers and buy from a handful of library vendors for most of their purchases. That's what every librarian in the country does. It's a flawed system, but it's what our libraries are stuck with. How can we improve this? How do our librarians need your permission to select from more diverse book selection lists? Can we empower our librarians to find a solution? How do we address the flaws in the way that books are selected? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but it's something that I want you to think about as we're putting together our new library plan. We value our Macon libraries, and we thank you so much for this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tripp. Heather Johnson.
Oh, Sheriff. She's still here?
Sheriff, we've got room for at least 5 or 6.
Yes, sir. I'll let them know.
Hey, my name's Heather Johnson. I'm an Otto resident, and I'm also here to speak about the library, sort of, and the boards, basically, and how the county commissioners vet the boards. I think we saw at the last county commissioner meeting what can happen when people who don't know what they're doing are on boards and run huge budgets and mismanage the budgets and get us involved in lawsuits that we can't afford. And I think that we've seen on this planning board what happens when people that aren't vetted correctly get on boards that they have no business being on. So I would ask y'all to, I know y'all got a lot going on, but when you can, we need to get some really good, set, transparent criteria for vetting these folks, for looking at their applications, and actually going through a proper process for getting appropriate people who know what they're doing on these boards. Thank you.
John Kotek.
Hello again. Name is John Kotab. I'll make this brief. I think we made a lot of great progress last month. I understand it was unanimous that the flock cameras were no longer visually recording everyone. I think that's a fantastic win. Continue to look into it, continue to do some more research. So, this is a good start. We're not done yet. I've learned that every time a vehicle or a phone goes by one of these cameras, MAC addresses, every electronic device that receives or sends electronic data has one. So without the camera, with the camera covered, it doesn't really do much. There's still tons of data that's being harvested. Yes, going to the data centers, as somebody mentioned, that's a really good thing to keep in mind. I believe that's the main reason they're being built, for a mass surveillance system. And I am not in favor of any other kind of brand coming in, Axon, you name it. If that does happen, I'll make sure we all let you know about it, that we understand this is being done against our wishes. So the thing that's really important for me to remember is that our right to life, liberty, and pursuit of property is not something given to us by a governmental system. It's something given to us by Almighty God. This is something that I think goes back to our fears and our anxieties about a surveillance system that we remember, or I think a lot of us have forgotten, as short as 4 years ago, a curfew was enacted by the Sheriff's Department. If it's enacted by anyone else, correct me. I believe that's where it came from. I think that's very much a shame, as we're all adults, and we should all be treated. It should all be treated as such. We don't want a surveillance system in place. I don't think any of us, not even the Sheriff's Department, want that in place when something like that were to happen again, where it's expected that, we all need to obey whatever regulations are done by COVID protocols, whatever pandemic protocols are coming out. So we really need to get ahead of this. This needs to be something where, whether it's visual surveillance or they're tracking our phones or they're tracking our cars, we need to get ahead of that, in my opinion. And in my opinion, putting a bag over the cameras, maybe this is temporary, maybe the poles will come down. If it stays bagged and instead of the poles being taken down, that's extremely problematic. That doesn't show to the public, in my opinion, a follow through to completely get this taken care of. And also, I believe we need to take this to the state. A lot of our state highways, we could get pushback from the state, like, well, this is your county, but this is a state highway, so we're going to keep this on the road anyway. I think we're in good company. There's a lot of counties that are against this as well. We can get with them and take this to the state. And that's it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we'd already closed the public hearing before, so please state your name for the record.
My name is Cody Harper, U.S. Air Force veteran. I visited out here since about 2018, lived out here since 2022, and been a resident of Franklin, North Carolina since 2023. And I live right there at the Little Red House at the end of Centerstown on the Little Tennessee River, and I've just watched for the last few years how the water level has consistently decreased, as well as activity on that river. It used to be for probably my first 2 years out here, we could be out there just about every single day on the water enjoying it. And since about 2024 and last year and now this year, we can see the base plates for the bridge all the way down, maybe about 4 inches up from where the base is, or certainly about that much of it's exposed out of the water. It used to be, it was about 18 inches above that. And there used to be people would come and go across that bridge and go fish under it. And that's been just about wiped out. There ain't nobody fishing out there anymore, except for maybe 2 or 3 days after a storm rolls through. I've only seen one group out there this summer. So for the data center water consumption, I don't see it happening. We don't have the water. The fish are gone from a few spots. A bunch of fishing spots that used to be out there just ain't being used anymore because it's all rocks now, and it's only going to get worse. So if we are going to introduce data centers, they need to be small scale, they need to be self-contained for cooling. It can't be this evaporative stuff because we do not have the water for it, or else we will see the Little Tennessee River turn into the Little Tennessee Basin. It will dry up and it will be gone. Thank you.
All right. Looking for adjustments and/or approval of the agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Sherrill, second by Commissioner Shields. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, reports and presentations. GFOA, Certificate of Achievement, Excellence in Financial Reporting, Fiscal Year 25, County Manager. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to recognize Lindsay Leopard and the other staff of the Macon County Finance Office. They were recognized by the Government Finance Officers Association and awarded a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the last fiscal year. I think that says a lot for this group of folks in this department. They've obviously been through a whole lot of change, and I think they have succeeded in making sure that the integrity and the transparency and the excellence that we've come to expect out of that office is still there, and I just wanted to recognize them for that tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for a job well done. Speech?
Good.
Any comments?
Got great staff.
All right. Item B, presentation of proposed schedule of values and scheduled public hearing. Thanks, Administrator Abby Bachelor.
Good evening, Commissioners. So I'm here tonight to present the schedule of values, standards, and rules for real property and the schedule of values for the present use value property. So these are the schedules that I know I've sent through. They will be physically posted at the tax office, the mapping office. We also have electronic copies on our website and on the public notices website for anybody to review. And then we will have a public hearing scheduled for the next meeting, and anybody that has questions can come forward and ask about any of the data in either one of these. And then you will be able to, the next meeting in October, have the ability to vote on these schedules and approve them so that they can be voted, after they're voted on, they have to be advertised for 4 consecutive weeks before they're passed. And do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to old business. Carson Convenience Center design presentation. Mr. Kay.
Thank you. Trevor, if you'll pull up that first Carson design for me there, please. So tonight I just want to present the proposed design for the new Carson Convenience Center to you all and to the public. I'll talk a little about it first, and I'll tell you about what our next processes are. So if you look at either the handout you have, or I have some paper copies here that Nina has, or if you look at the screen, you'll notice the green writing there toward the top of the screen. That's actually Highway 64. And the roadway that turns down into the old Carthage J school side is kind of the top right there. And this facility is designed to be a model for recycling efficiency. When you come through there and make the turn, you'll actually turn to the right. All the traffic goes to the right. That's a 2-lane entrance into the facility. The kind of angled boxes that are there on your top there next to the red topo lines are the recycling trailers, the recycling facility. What that's designed for is to be convenient for folks that are doing recycling. Is they can pull over into the right-hand lane. There's 4 spots for them to recycle. They have time to do the recycling the way it should be done, and it's more convenient for them. And then either if you're bypassing that with household trash, or you do have household trash after that, come on around and make the turn, and you come back across like you're going back to the east there, and you see where the 3 cans are there, the solid waste containers that are there. 2 of those will be operational. The third one is designed so that when the trucks come in to pick up the garbage, now occasionally, now some of our smaller facilities, we have problems with the trucks getting in. We'll either have to close the center, or we're blocking traffic, or we're having issues with that. This one's designed to have 2 cans there all the time functioning. They can drop off an empty, move over and pick up the other one, and we're not having to stop that traffic flow from going through there. So it's designed to be as efficient as possible and to promote that recycling for this particular area. Trevor, if you want to go to the next slide, the number 2. On the next page, I've had a couple folks ask me what is our plans for the rest of that property. That's about an 8-acre site there. We looked at a couple options for it. That's not necessarily great building soil in there, because we're getting really close to some wetland stuff in there. And obviously location, for what it is, you have to think about where the location is and what it's accessible for. So the one thing that we did look at, we overlaid a multi-use recreational field over top of that facility to show you how that could be utilized at a later date if you decided that you want to use that for recreational facilities in there. It's directly across the creek from Barker Meadows. Unfortunately, it doesn't touch, because we've had some folks ask us, could we put a bridge across there and actually walk from one to the other. Unfortunately, there's a parcel of property there that we don't own in between, but it is really, really close. And the reason we looked at this, and obviously this is still open for discussion for whatever the board wants, but we've seen a whole lot of pressure on Colossagian Park, and in particular with the flag football leagues. I did not realize how popular flag football is at the moment. Matter of fact, Seth is here. He can probably answer these questions better than me, but a lot of times those are on baseball outfields, or we're putting those wherever we can actually put them. So for a reasonable amount of money, you could probably put this multi-use field in here later on, or whenever you want to do that. and tie it back in and not cause an issue with the convenience center and still use that whole property. So now as far as time frame on the design of this and where we're at now, we're ready to go to bid. We're actually ready to put the project out to bid. Hopefully, ideally, we would like to have a January 1 completion date. Obviously, that depends on getting the bids back, getting the work done. The work's not extreme for the convenience center. The one thing that could cause us an issue is we got to get the grading done, we got to get the paving done before the asphalt plant closes for the winter. So that would be one holdup. The other issue we have is there's some federal money's tied to this, and Jamie can answer this if I stumble on any of these, but we have to go through a whole lot of approvals, including the historical preservation assessment and some other federal government hoops that we have to jump through before we can expend that money. I think we're down to the last one. The request has been sent in, and we're waiting on that to come back. So hopefully what happens is we can go ahead and put out the project out to bid, and we can get those bids back, and by then we'll have the final information back on okay to spend that money, because the way the grant, this is part of that grant that we got back last April, I think. You can't do any work until you get everything approved, or they'll disqualify part of the money. So we're trying to tie all that back together, but I'm hopeful within the next 30 to 45 days we can have those bids back. I would be interested in direction from the board. The convenience center is a push. We need to get that done. If you want me to price the rec facilities as an option, I can, just so you see what that's going to cost. Or if you want to just leave it green space, we can leave it that way. Or if you have any other suggestions on that space, we're certainly able to do that. I don't know that I need necessarily, I can actually go ahead and put it out to bid, but I don't necessarily need approval for that, but I would like to have some direction if you want me to do part, all options, whatever you're interested in.
That's 8 acres total?
It's right at 8 acres. Now, I will say, we did have some conversation, we were talking about this, about a transfer station. We talked about that. There's not really enough property there to do a transfer station proper. The other issue, and Joe can correct me on this, but we ran into some issues with impervious, the square footage of impervious area that we had there, that was going to cause a little bit of an issue as well. I will say that we're actually talking to the neighbors there. We share an easement with the neighbors. They are actually, I believe, better pleased that we have moved that closer to the road, because it actually hides it a little bit. It's not quite as visible from 64. It's also not quite as visible from their house, because there's some fencing and some stuff there. They would actually be looking down toward the rec facility, which is better view, better green space than actually having the convenience center down there in that area. And of course, there's an attendant building there that's going to be, for what you would call an attendant building, state of the art. It'll be designed for them to have restroom facilities inside the building. And again, we're trying to make this a model for going forward, particularly on the layout, on how we would want these to look in the future.
Well, the county manager and I have talked about this, and I think it's a great idea, but we've talked about a soccer field in Highlands for the last 3 years, and I told the county manager, before we get involved too much into a new soccer field, we need to have plans in place of what we're going to do in Highlands for the soccer field. So when I see this, I think it's a great idea, but we've had a few conversations about where we're going with this, but when we talk about a soccer field, I want Highlands on the top of the list for a soccer field. They need it, they need a track and everything else, and this is a great project, but I want confirmation that whether that's at the school or Button Creek, Zachary Park, that those are serious conversations. Thank you.
I'll add my couple comments here. I like all the parking and I like all the usable space. I'm not a doomsday prepper, but I feel like in case of an emergency and you need to stage, large volume, mass equipment, law enforcement staging area, it's right on the side of the road. If it's a lay down yard for some sort of emergency, the last hurricane we had 60, 70 pieces of equipment, trucks. I think I wouldn't want to pave that for two reasons, but I think I would just rather gravel all the parking areas and get rid of all the curbs and all the irregular shapes. But I really like it. I think, cost to level out a soccer field right there while the equipment's there to bulldoze the convenience center should be nominal. I'd like to entertain cost analysis on that, but I really think this could be strategic planning for the county. Long term, you're not far from Wine and Stair. If the county has a major snow and they have to stockpile ice close by, it's a perfect place. Perfect state, I'm sorry. But John, I hear what you're saying on Highlands. What worries me about the soccer field up there is we've heard rumblings of it being a potential school site. And I just feel like we need to have a comprehensive site study on that site. If we go put a nice turf soccer field on the best part of that property, and then in our CIP, 20-year CIP, they decide to put a school out there, we're kind of getting the cart ahead of the horse. So I feel like I'd entertain a comprehensive site study with a real, with contours, elevations, and a real layout.
Right.
And I just think it's worthy of that.
And I appreciate that, and by all means, I just don't see the county investing into that current soccer field at the school. Number one, we talked about the track and everything else, so absolutely, if we could get the planning moving forward with Zachary Park, with the soccer field and a regulation-sized track out there, and it looks to me like that's the best we are going to do for the soccer situation in Highlands.
So no, but I'm sure Highlands appreciates your urgency there. So
we could certainly, whenever the board's ready, obviously you want to talk to the Board of Education, of course, but it's fairly easy to do an RFQ or request for qualifications for a firm to start looking at that, and then once you choose a firm, you can certainly give them criteria at Zachary and say, we like a soccer field, which sets 190 feet, is that correct? 210, 190? Minimum. Figure out how to make that fit and look at those other, how that parcel lays, and then I'm sure they could, obviously this is way down the road, but I'm sure they could take a square footage of what a facility would be and overlay it of some sort. I'm sure we could do that.
I may be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the school system is already talking to a firm. I think they already have 3 options out there, just a regular soccer field with a track. They've got some, I think they're already working on a few things.
At Zachary Park?
Yeah.
That's great. We have city water, city sewer, the buildings there, wonderful restrooms, lots of parking, and that's the best place to move forward.
One last thing, is there a cost to us to get a cost analysis on this?
On Zachary Park or this? No, there's, to put it out to bid, there's no cost.
Do we have
I think, honestly, and I appreciate you advocating for that up there in Highlands, but I think we've seen the issues down here in Franklin with all the issues with their youth, nothing happening for them. The soccer program here is grown exponentially, and they're consistently an issue with not having enough space for these kids to be able to do anything. So to have an extra field like that, I think that will solve a lot of.
I agree. That's a wonderful site plan.
I think it'd be an amazing thing for us to look into this.
When I say a wonderful site plan, the biggest thing that I have, how did we ever get to the point You know, you come across winding stairs and you see the mountains and how beautiful they are. You're coming by H&H Farm and you see all the farm land, and all of a sudden we're going to see a convenience center for garbage. You go to Sanderstown and 28, right there at the corner of the intersection. What do we have? A convenience center. Highlands Road, convenience center. How did we ever get to that point in Macon County to actually put these on our main roads?
I inherited this side, so I don't know. Honestly, that did go into consideration because, believe it or not, I like the idea of it being tucked up against the bank because it is way less visible from the highway than it is, 100 feet this way. So, and it's actually a little further away from Parker Meadows on that side. So, I like the idea of if it's going to be there, at least tucking it up there against the road, but I don't know.
Well, it was just in general. It wasn't necessarily this. It just didn't make sense.
I inherited those other two.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Cagle, do we have a detail on design?
We don't have the full set yet, but we will have.
We could probably,
I just want to make sure that all contractors bid apples to apples, and I think there needs to be a detail. We all know that's a loose goal.
We will have the full set when it's at the end, yes, sir.
Larry's worked on that. What about the old Carson facility now? What's going to happen to that?
So we'll decommission it, and then we'll look at it and see if there's any use for anything for us there, and if not, at some point we would probably surplus it if there's no use there for us.
And when did you say again? I go by there all the time. I'm asking.
So my goal would be January 1st, contingent upon us jumping through some more federal hoops with the funding and getting the bids back in to give people time to get the bids in a timely fashion. And if all that works together with the closing of the asphalt plant, because the asphalt plant will close probably October-ish, mid-October-ish, depending on how cold it gets. So we have to be able to pay it. So we would not want to open it without that.
Figures you can do it because the center now is a wreck.
Yes, sir.
Would you like a motion or consensus?
I think just a consensus is good. I think what I'm hearing is do the convenience center with an option for the other, so you at least see what it costs. Doesn't cost us anything, and we go from there. Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, moving on. Item A, new business. Discussion and consideration of the juvenile.
Wait a minute.
Did I miss B?
Yeah. 10B, the data center.
I scribbled in there. Item 10B, data center.
Okay, Chairman, as we've heard from the audience here about the moratorium, and I certainly don't want to put anything out there that is worthless in hearing from council, unless we go through the specifics of that. I'm looking at layered protection for the citizens of Macon County. And if that moratorium is going to help us, then by all means, I think we should do it. If it's not worth the cost of the ink that it's written, then there's no purpose of doing it.
Well, and so I was looking at that further, and I'm looking at 160D-107D. And it says, to establish a development moratorium, the development moratorium must include 1. What courses of action alternative to a moratorium were considered by the local government and why those alternative courses of action were not deemed adequate? I mean, I don't know how you answer that. In other words, I've been looking at some of these moratoriums other counties have imposed, and I don't see where they even made any attempt to comply with the requirements of the statute. So I guess I'll do some research and continue looking. I've now looked at all the moratoriums that I'm familiar with in Western North Carolina, and I don't see any of those that are going to, well, I will not pass judgment on those. I'll leave it at that.
And so what you're saying is you don't feel that, one, it's necessary, number two, is it's not going to extend any additional protection?
I don't know yet. Let me look it up rather than just here reading the statute and checking out some of what other counties have done, because I'm not seeing how I don't see how they've complied with the statute. I think they're hung out to dry right now if attacked.
Well, quick question. They didn't comply, but they did it anyway.
Right. Which means if it gets attacked, it's no good. Ours is good.
So I think moving forward, maybe that should be give him a chance to look into this and potentially put it at a future meeting.
I think we'll just put it on next month's agenda and we'll let him do some discovery for a month.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Good enough? All right, now, new business item A, discussion and consideration of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council fiscal year 26-27, certification and annual plan, Division of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency, Prevention Area Consultant Lorraine Williams. Hey.
Hi. How are you? You're right there.
My name is Lorraine Williams. I'm an area consultant that works here in our district, and then I serve 11 counties altogether. Working with the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Oh, yeah. Is that better? My husband says I talk too loud, but it's not true.
I'm sorry.
I don't think it's true anywhere else. Is that better? Thank you. I work with the Department of Public Safety with Juvenile Justice, and my role as an area consultant, I work in conjunction with the juvenile court counselors and Chief Court Counselor Dusty Snyder. They work directly with the juveniles, and then the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, as most of you know, each of the 100 counties has a Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, and the role of the JCPCs is to assess the risk and needs of the juveniles that come through the juvenile justice system, and to look at their risk and needs, and to also monitor the programs. Each January, the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council members go to visit each of the programs, and they undertake monitoring there. And then as an area consultant, I also am tasked with oversight with monitoring new programs. Their first year, we do a more extensive monitoring, and then monitoring every 3 years after that for those programs. So anyone who has received those funds will tell you it is not sort of like, it's aid to counties, the funds that come through juvenile justice and then come through to the finance department and then get dispersed. And the JCPC's role is to look and assess what the needs are of the juveniles who are involved in juvenile justice, and to ensure that the programs that are funded are meeting the needs of those youth involved or at risk for involvement in juvenile justice. And so that's the JCPC's function, and they do that work on behalf of you all. And I know that, Mr. Shields, I know you've attended many meetings over the years, and Mr. Antoine, it was fun to have you at the picnic last year. In May, they do a picnic to each of the programs chooses some juveniles that they'd like to honor, and they do that for their May meeting, so over at Parker Meadows. So the annual plan and certification is a lot of paperwork, I know, and it's an overview of the work that the JCPC has done throughout the year on the behalf of the county to show the work. So it includes, the monitoring reports are actually on file with the JCPC and with the county. We do have they've got the monitoring reports for each of the programs, and commissioners, or you all are always welcome to see those. And then the annual plan shows the funding decisions as well as the risk and needs that led the council to that point. And currently, the JCPC chose to do 2-year funding by general statute. Several years ago, they made changes to 143B to the section involving the JCPC. And in that, they decided that instead of having JCPCs need to vote every year, that they could go to an every other year system. And so we're in year 2 of that funding, and that's what's shown on your county funding plan. And then I think in there is also, in the certification piece, there's a section that shows all of the membership, and you all do have some vacant slots. You have 2 vacant slots for the commissioner appointees. There are 7 commissioner appointees that you all can add to the board. I know some counties will have a regular system, like with other county boards, where people will fill out applications and then are appointed for the 2 years. The Macon County JCPC, I don't know if you all have done that as commissioners or if it's been more informal than that, but, and many of the specified members of the 26 members on each board in each county are pretty specific, or they're a designee. So, for example, the chief court judge designee in several counties, including Macon, is Brad Runiger, who is the GAL, runs the GAL program for the area. So he's been appointed by the chief court judge for that. And that's just a quick overview, but you all probably know a lot of that. So whatever questions you all have.
Has this been discussed with the school system, the leadership there?
Yes, for years, Marcy, I'm trying to think of Marcy's last name. I mean, she's the one that served for a number of years. And she served, and then when she retired, there have been a couple of different people. Right now, they have Annie Wishon serving, but the superintendent could designate anyone that they prefer. You know.
I read in here that increased the juvenile age. Is that what I read there?
That in December 1st, 2019, raised the age did go into an effect. So prior to that, for anyone who sat in court upstairs here, you know, for years and years, as you all know, as you know, as a former principal, you know, 16 and 17-year-olds, many of them at that time were misdemeanor cases. Now, after COVID, and I think that has changed a little bit statewide. Seems like the risks are a little bit higher than they used to be, but for 16 and 17-year-olds, they were added to the system, but there was legislation that passed just recently that amended that some. So now 16 and 17-year-olds begin in the adult court system, but then misdemeanors come to juvenile, or sent over to juvenile justice, whereas rather than the reverse, which is what was in effect from 19 on.
Seems like the family and alcohol and drugs, stuff like that. Same old, same old.
Yeah. Yeah, that, and yeah, there are risk factors that do seem higher, and we have regular discussions at the meetings about the need for mental health services.
I hope with the new high school, with its curriculum and stuff, we can realign some of these young people with the workforce and enhance their livelihood and how to enhance their economic piece there.
Mr. Chairman, I'll talked about the members, she mentioned the members as far as appointments. We have not advertised those. I think traditionally they have just been voted on, the board to handle them, but with your new process, we can do whatever you want to do with those. If you're prepared, then obviously we can accept those. If, there are some that are designees that they are there because of position, but we need to go through that and advertise those. We certainly can. I don't know what that does for timing for Lorraine, if that creates any kind of an issue with her, or if we can approve part of the plan and not the members, or how you want to do that. And obviously there's a financial piece that Lindsay can expand on if there's questions about that as well.
How does that affect you guys?
Well, yeah, and for the members, there are always members, that rotate off or someone retires or that kind of thing. So membership can be changed throughout the year. At the annual plan, the certification piece with that membership list is a snapshot of the members in May when the JCPC puts that together. Pat Clark, who's the clerk for the JCPC, she's retired from Making Progress for Progress, and she does that just as along with all of her volunteer work. But she puts that together in May, so it's a snapshot in May, but throughout the year people can be added. And the best thing to do is to add people who are going to attend, because it's easier to achieve a quorum. So I always encourage my counties, to add people that are going to be able to come. So not there are times when people can't come. If being active is helpful for the.
So that, one of the questions that I have is I see your meeting schedule here, starting August 13th, 2025, October 8th, 2025, November 12th, 2025, February 11th, 2026, April 8th, 2026, and May 13th, 2026. You've only had a quorum one time. So who is actually making decisions without a quorum at these meetings? That's one thing that brought my attention to this. So.
We would love your help in recruiting additional members. I know that Matthew Ramsey, who's a juvenile court counselor, he's teaching basic training right now, so he's across the state this week, but he is the chair, and he has done a good job. The Macon JCPC's always had some challenges with having members come and attend, and a few of the positions it's hard to do that, especially with with the DA's office. They're in court, and same with the judge. The judges, it's hard they get such a short break, and it's different each time. So, but yeah, we would love your help the last couple years especially, it seems like even though people sign up and are enthusiastic to come, they don't always come, but a core group comes. So we would love your help with that.
So that would be, going back on those lines, why would we reappoint people that's not showing up?
Yeah. And the JCPC has been kind of working and I'm not a member of the JCPC. I currently have 11 counties, and that's one of the things I try to help them with, is to identify members. And so they have changed some people around and added people. And it's actually a little better than it was, but it still could use additional members who are dedicated. And I think part of it is just getting the word out there. There are a lot of youth in Macon County. Right. It's Macon and Haywood are the two counties that I would say have probably the highest risk youth coming through DJJ overall.
I don't think we need to nominate you to. Well, only thing I was going to say was if we were discussing over here that I think we might need to advertise for those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just have this on next month's, put it out there, see what we get.
I think what's important tonight, though, is I think from what I'm understanding, you can fill these seats later. But if we don't approve this funding plan and don't get that in place, these programs aren't going to get their money. We're already into August, and so they didn't get a July or August payment. So by the time we get this sent to them, September might even be a little delayed. So I think it's important, if you want to continue the program, which I would assume you would, to go ahead and approve the funding plan and then maybe fill the seats at next meeting.
Well, in that case, I'd like to make a motion to approve the funding plan.
Second. Hear a motion by Commissioner Breeden, second by Commissioner Antoine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And it's, as you all know, a public meeting, so anyone's welcome to come.
Thank you.
All right, item B, discussion regarding outside agency funding requests. Mr. Blake.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to have a little discussion with the board. We're starting to have a couple of agencies come ask for funding, particularly some nonprofits or some other outside agencies. And I kind of want a little direction from the board on how you want to handle those. Do you want to take them on a first come, first served basis? Do you want me to congregate those for every 3 months or January, or how would you like for me to handle those when they come in? I'll be glad to do them any way that you want to do. You obviously have some contingency money that's sitting there. It's not allocated anywhere, so we do have the ability, if you're so inclined, to fund these without having to go into fund balance. Or if you're not inclined to hear any of them, I also understand that. So I just kind of want a little direction. As those folks are starting to come to me to have those requests, how do you want to proceed with those?
What about the old way we did it? You know, had $70-some thousand in a fund, and they divvied it out. I think we dropped it. But that's a very powerful piece, especially in grant writing. I see Kelly back there. When you're doing grant writing, those type of things, to have a piece that your county commissioners are also involved in this, allotment of funds. And it helps with those kind of things. I'm with Kids Place, and they've been very fortunate prior to this to be in the let's say the $10,000 range. We did an estimate one time. If we had to dissolve Kids Place today, the county would have to pick up $250,000 of serving the community that they do. And you look at this with the young people and what they do there at Kids Place and the other places. It's an asset to the young people. It's an asset to this community that we have something here. But if they had it's hard for them to keep it going. I just happen to every 2 weeks I sign the checks, so it's tough to keep these places going. The value they have is really important. You could go back to that system where they could build that piece in there in the budget each year. We have about, 10 that then we got Pregnancy Care Center. They're doing things. I call it one thing that they're doing in the Pregnancy Care Center, bringing Daddy home. Thank God, Daddy's coming home back into the houses, trying to muster his role in that home, and that's one of the things that they've gotten there, and there's a lot of things going on out here that sure could be a big help for us. Just pitch in $2. Kelly, what you got something to add to that? You're in this too.
I mean, it's really important that we support our nonprofits. I feel like people don't understand what they do for our community, and we need to 100% support them. And I do try to do events for those nonprofits, but it doesn't get enough revenue to really help them. But we have to show as a county we're supporting them. It's very crucial and very important for them to get grants.
Grants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna pipe in here because I totally disagree, and I've said it before. These nonprofits are absolutely vital to the service they provide to whatever it is that they're doing. And if you take, that's the problem. We have, just like, and I bring it back to the fire departments forgot how to ask for money. If you take and go to your community and ask for donations, offer a service to them, people will open their pocketbooks up. But for a county or a government body to tax its citizens, to supply money to a nonprofit is not our role. Now, in saying that, there's a reason why Town of Franklin and Town of Highland stopped this. They've never disclosed why they did, but we know why they did. Because they decided that that's not what their role is as elected leaders. I support these nonprofits and the job that they do. But if a taxpayer wants to contribute $100, $50, $20 to that organization, they will do it. And so I just say that I disagree with us taxing the citizens of this county to pick and choose who we give this money to.
I think the picking and choosing came from us, not that it was established by the commissioners who chose to put money against the last spot.
I financially support Kids Place, I financially support the Pregnancy Care Center, and a lot of these other ones. I send in a contribution or a donation because I believe in the work they do. So therefore, it's not our job. It's your job as a human being to support out of your pocketbook an agency that you care about and the giving of yourself to that agency.
I think the giving of self, you can't put a monetary value on that.
Well, you give yourself. You open your pocketbook up and you give them money. That's how you show that you believe in this organization. And the truth of the matter is, a nonprofit organization that is absolutely critical to a community will be self-supporting by donations. They should not be looking at county government handouts.
Kelly?
May I speak? Is that okay? So I get what...
Come up just a minute.
Do I have to?
It's in the records, I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't want to stay.
Well, you don't have a hard time talking.
I do.
Since when?
So what you don't understand is when a nonprofit applies for a grant, they have to show, number one, community support. They have to do those things that I do in the community, like the Sweet Carolina Music Festival or the Treasure Quest. They have to show that they're actually going out and trying to get money. And so I think it's very important that we realize when you have programs like No Wrong Door that keeps homeless people off the streets, or you have Men's Challenge of the Smokies that keeps 24 men off the streets, off drugs, cleans them up, that it takes, I mean, it saves you money from the sheriff's department to all the resources, EMS services. I mean, it really is a beautiful thing. And I know, I get what you're saying, because I'm all for, responsible taxation, spending the monies, responsibly, but you have to realize the importance of.
So here's the thing with that, if the people have made a decision that they want to support something like this, it's not up to us to say no. So really, I'd like to hear more from the citizens personally, like how do they feel about that? If the people of Macon County want to support these nonprofits, then that's what's got to happen. So,
I mean, I think if you really,
honestly, I do. I see both sides of this. I understand, I'm really understanding both sides of it, but I really feel like this is the people's money.
Yeah, I get it. But do you invest the people's money in other resources that benefit them? I mean, at the end of the day, you do. I mean, that's what you're elected to do. So if you see these resources as valuable to the community, then I think you should definitely consider that. That's where I stand on it. Just no different than investing in your health department, no difference in investing in public safety. There's no difference. It's just like a extra hand outside from those
Well, I'll have to disagree with that, Kelly, because these are NGOs, these are non-governmental organizations. Your health department, all these other agencies are governmental agencies that must be funded by tax collections. Non-profits are not required. In fact, Macon County is not required to have any of these non-governmental organizations, right?
And we can agree to disagree.
Well, I agree.
I'm all for nonprofits, so that's an argument we're not going to agree on.
The question that I have, and I've asked before, bring me documentation says that these non-governmental organizations cannot get a grant without support from the government.
So
it's non-existent.
Yeah. I'll give you an example, like me just doing the benefit for the 828 Treasure Quest for Kids Place. They automatically got a $1,000 grant because I was willing to do that.
Right. And this is feel-good stuff.
Yeah.
This is emotions.
Emotions, like your kids, like if your child had something happen to them, you would want that access to Kids Place.
It's emotions.
You really would.
It's emotions.
Okay.
I'm going to steer us back around here.
Sorry.
Thank you, Kelly.
Well, I appreciate it.
Mr. Breen, do you have anything you want to elaborate on?
Go ahead,
I mean, as a final comment, it's not necessarily always about emotions, John. I mean, what we're talking about is real. And again, you got to see both sides of this. So we've funded this for a long time. Has it been a benefit to the community? Yes or no? And if it has been and the community is behind it, I say do it. If it hasn't been a benefit and nobody was behind it, I say don't do it. It's really that simple.
I'll add my few comments.
I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, I agree with that. I think it's kind of one of those 50-50 issues where I get obviously agree that with John on some of that stuff, but at the same time, I think these are things that benefit our community, and the people are coming. These organizations are coming and asking for the money, so we either have to set up, just like Manchester said, a system to do it, like we had the community funding pool, or we just have to say no, we're not going to do anything. But I think, as Commissioner Antoine said, I mean, if we've done this for years and it's been a benefit to the community, I mean, I just can't see how we don't continue that. I think Kids Place does a great thing. I think the Smoky Mountain Pregnancy Center does a great thing. Men's Challenge, I mean, I've had family members go through there. So I just feel like that's something that we have to look at, and I would support putting it back in there.
I feel like Mr. Cabe and I, as we're constructing our agenda, it's really hard to have nonprofits and ask for money and just turn it down. I felt like this was a worthy conversation with the full board. And I struggle because we're operating at a deficit. We pulled $1.2 million, Mr. Cabe, out of fund balance for $1.3 million.
No, $3 million.
Okay, we pulled $3 million out of fund balance to balance this budget. We're obviously in a deficit, and it's hard to fund, to reference Mr. Sherrill, non-government organizations I've had. But seeing contingency, funds available, seeing the impact of what these things do to the community, I mean, it's an emotional decision, and it's a hard one because one of the requests we had for funding was additional lights at the fairgrounds, and I feel like that's an investment. I have no problem funding additional lights out there. We've already spent enough money, and I think, make sure the project's finished. And I think it's a judgment call for each and every one of us, and I feel like we just have to respectfully agree to disagree, but I feel like we need to make a decision, either do or don't move or don't move. I mean, they're knocking on Mr. Cave's door, and I don't know, I feel like we've kind of danced all around this. We haven't really honed in.
Let me just say something historically. Maybe the historic piece in here is it went in a cycle. What you're going to see coming to you now is ball teams. They want money to go play all-star game. You're going to have scouts. We had just a tremendous amount of people come from the community wanting us to give some money in there. So we had to put this in a situation, I believe it's $70,000. We had the commissioners, I don't know who the commissioners were that been allotted the money, but it was a group. And it stopped that. Because there was everybody, for any reason, coming here asking for monies, and it stopped it when we allotted so much money to the people. And we had an excuse to say, we have a plan in place. And when they put in, you may have 20 clubs or someone like that, or nonprofits that ask for it, whether you only give it up 10, but I'm telling you, the people will bombard you in here with requests. Everything from scouts to Little League Baseball to cheerleading, a lot of different things you're going to see.
Well, Commissioner Shields, I think that's why we're having this conversation. They're knocking on Mr. Cage's door, and he says, no, I'm not putting it on the agenda. Well, then you have aggravated members of the community come speak in public comment. If he's not on the agenda, or if he puts him on the agenda, then either I have to take him off, or we hear numerous arguments for funds. And it kind of gets to a point where I would be satisfied if we funded out contingency, this board or two members of this board would distribute funds. I think my fundamental issue before was there was no rhyme or reason to how the funds left. It was kind of just scatterbrained. Not scatterbrained, I shouldn't say that, but I felt like some people would receive more funds than they requested, while others would receive partial funding. And I think that was my fundamental issue originally. And I think if we hold the purse strings, we make those decisions, we live in that budget, I think, again, we're investing in the community building.
Let me bring Commissioner Patterson into this little conversation here. Town of Highlands did away with that community funding. And there's an organization in Highlands that's called Mountain Findings. And Mountain Findings goes out and they take all these furniture, all these things that is donated to that. And there's a group of volunteers. Everybody there is non-paid, correct? Okay. They run an absolute wonderful operation there. All volunteers. And how much money do you know off the top of your head that Mountain Findings donated to all the different organizations in Highlands last year? It was
$200,000.
Yeah, $200,000. Now, I know that CareNet, is that who it is down here that actually takes furnishings and stuff like that? Well, they're also included in some of this furnishings coming from Highlands. I've seen the truck up there. So when they get that stuff, it's donated to them for funds for the community. So that's what a nonprofit does. That's how nonprofits support nonprofits. It's not government. And that's a beautiful thing. Fibber McGee's, they do the same thing. Clothing and everything else. People in the community donate and then they sell it. And they donate stuff back. The ABC store.
Yeah, John, you probably know, the town used to do that too, put in $50,000 or something to do that. The problem is like Mr. Shields said, everybody started wanting to do that. And I can fund things that I think are important, but you don't think those are important, and why are you not getting funding? We also did it only for bricks and mortar. We would not do it for operating funds, because then that does become a constant ask every year, and then you get put on a list, and then somehow you have to say no. So if you do need rules, because everybody will come and ask, and we actually finally just did away with it because there is some.
Was that the reason for doing away with it?
Well, there was some question by whether the state, because it is public funds, and we are deciding to give to something that is not necessarily only for public, it's just for a simple, single because we're talking about taxpayer money, okay? And that's supposed to basically do pretty much everybody. And so that's why you do the health care and the schools and all the things that you need to do. But, I'm kind of with John on this, is it became a real problem when then people start looking to the government to fund everything. And we just can't. We can't. And so the only way we do it is you just say no, basically. And we just, again, because we had done it historically for some things, and then somebody else says, well, why don't you do it for me? And we said, we only do bricks and mortar, and then it became, yeah, but we do this, and this, and every one of them can give you statistics of how they have helped the community.
And what's the name of this organization?
That is Mountain Findings, and I will tell you.
That gets started.
Oh, that's been there for.
That's just the community doing it itself. That doesn't have anything to do with the government. We don't have anything to do with that.
And people just continuously, I mean, if they have an old bed or something they don't want anymore, Mountain Findings comes, picks it up, they take it over there, and I will tell you, it's almost looking like a shopping mall.
Oh, it is.
On Friday, with all the people that is there shopping at Mountain Findings.
But I don't think you should equate Mountain Findings to saying, well, Franklin has to do it the same way. They can do it their way. I mean, it just happens to be that as a government, we decided that, number one, we would only do bricks and mortar because then it wasn't an annual ask, okay, because operating expenses are operating expenses, and you have those every year. So we would do something like the lights, at the ball field or whatever it was, something that would be a one-time thing. And even then, it became overwhelming of the amount that people would want to ask. And this is money that maybe I think it's a good idea, but maybe you think a better idea is something else. And so we could no longer justify it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there a resolution? Does anybody have any desired action, direction from Mr. Cave?
And I'll obviously do whatever the board wants. We can certainly delay those, or we can think about criteria. If it's something like the fairgrounds that we funded before, that it's a public asset or a public benefit, we can certainly, you and I would just have to screen those out when they come to get here, but I'll certainly do whatever you want to.
I'm curious if we advise council to look into the legality of that.
We can, I can certainly come back next month. He and I can talk about it, and maybe all three of us get together and think about what the criteria is. Sure, we can do that.
Then there again, it has nothing to do with my opinion being against these organizations. My opinion is it's not our role as elected body that is in complete control of taxpayers' monies to decide to give it away to non-government organizations.
I'll move us on. Item C, consideration to declare county-owned property surplus and advertise for public bid. Mr. Cave, Mr. Rydell.
So, Mr. Chairman, in your packet, there were a list of 7 parcels that we would recommend that you declare surplus. We were actually approached by a resident that had an interest in purchasing a property or making an offer. So when we looked at those, there's 7 parcels that were in the Watauga Vista subdivision that were tax foreclosures some years ago. They range in value for anywhere from $1,500 to $14,600 a piece. Out of the 7, most of them are small parcels. There's 3/10 of an acre, almost 4/10 of an acre. There are 3 contiguous parcels. They're not doing us any good. They're actually off the tax rolls, so it would be our recommendation that you declare all 7 of those surplus, and we'll advertise them for sale and see if we get any offers on those.
Thoughts?
Sell.
And I do know, obviously, we keep talking about space, buildings, etc. Those parcels in Watauga Vista are not something that we'd be interested in for anything as far as any of our space.
No, and I think it's important to let somebody else pay the taxes and potentially develop. I feel like we talked about this a couple of years ago. These same tracks.
Yeah, most of Watauga's tracks are listed, so I don't know how these just didn't get included somehow.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Here, motion by Commissioner Sherrill. Second by Commissioner Antoine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes, the motion passes 5-0. All right, item D, discussion of mass surveillance. Commissioner Sherrill.
Forgot about that. Chairman, with this issue with flock surveillance, that has really consumed me over the last 2 months of actually where this company started and where they are and where they're going. And I think for number one, Macon County, the residents of Macon County is much better than having some third-party company surveil us every time we go out on the street. And I would like for this board to consider banning all third-party, or at least giving the task to the council about coming up with a plan moving forward to ban this on county-owned properties and county-owned vehicles, because there has been a huge outcry from the general public that they don't want this stuff, and it's our job to protect them. We don't need these systems for a little bit of safety. We don't need these systems to monitor law-abiding citizens in order to capture a criminal. I understand the value of what they're supposed to do, but the ambitions from this company is absolutely insane what they're going to. And I'll just give you a little hint of where this goes, and it's changing states. Virginia just passed a law that they're putting these cameras on stop signs. And there's a tag reader on the back side of it, and it alerts law enforcement when it considers there's an infraction of someone running that stop sign. So then the law enforcement officer decides whether he wants to write that person a ticket and send it to mail or through the mail. It's a civil issue, it's not a criminal issue. So to me, it's a money grab. The government's after us every step of the way to get every penny out of the American people that they can possibly get. Now, another thing in Virginia that they're doing is they're putting radars in construction barrels with a tag reader on the back side of it that is sending people tickets in the mail for speeding in a construction zone. So yes, I don't want people going through the construction zone speeding, but you know what? It happens. But Big Brother shouldn't be out there looking out after every move that we make. And that's exactly where these systems are going. That's where we are. There is an outcry across this country, and if you look at any one of these, and you look at the comments through this process, 90% of the people are against this. Most of the people that are for this surveillance, stalking, tracking is exactly what they are. And the Constitution of the United States protects us from this. And it's our job to protect the citizens of our county. And I would like to see some action from this board, county attorney, looking into this and see how we can ban this stuff in the future. I know in Oconee County, I've had lots of conversations with different counties across multiple states trying to figure out how to go about doing this. Oconee County has banned their system, and now Oconee County, at their next meeting, is going to ban all of these systems from their county. And they're also telling the cities, the municipal governments that's in their counties, that if you get these systems in your municipality, the county's not going to give you any funding. That's the same thing that the federal government's doing. There are bills in action in the federal government that says if And if they pass, they're telling every county, every city, if you have these in place, you will not get federal funding. Those are actions on the table. These things are abused. If you saw, and I'm going to tell you right now, this company is known to lie. They have been known to order their law enforcement officers on what to say when they present this. If you look at, go in there, look at 200 or 300 of them. Every one of them said the exact same thing. And it's odd that most of these departments, and I asked for this information, most of them are telling within 30 minutes of using this system, we got an abducted child. I bet you I've listened to 300 or 400 of those. How unique, how ironic that every one of these agencies are saying we caught an abducted child in 30 minutes. I've asked for that information today by the Macon County Sheriff's Department. I want proof of who that child, or not who the child was. I want to see the evidence that that child was recovered in Macon County in 30 minutes from Jackson County. And I want to see who was charged in that crime. That's what I want. And so the whole purpose of this, we are better than this. If law enforcement would include their citizens, and the citizens would include law enforcement in their lives, just like they used to have this community watch system and all that worked great. But when a community member calls law enforcement and says, I need some assistance, they expect law enforcement to show up.
Let me play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Is it the third-party system?
Yes.
We're more worried about?
Yeah. If he had the data, if he had the cameras and they didn't go across this country.
Would you mind to press the mic just a minute?
Sure.
I don't want to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
I kind of want to play devil's advocate. You know, in 2017, we had a skid steer stolen at 11:30 a.m. off the side of the Georgia Road. And cameras were the only reason we found it. And we ended up using the cameras at the Chevron across the Georgia line. And that's how we found it. There's no doubt in my mind, you know, there's tools out there, and I want to make sure the citizens, number one, I want to make sure people recognize the hard work the department puts in, but number two, I mean, is there an alternate method?
I don't know, and I'll research it, for sure.
I feel like...
For sure, I know at the beginning of the meeting, Barry gave a shout out to the sheriff's office.
Right.
That's good old-fashioned police work.
That's right.
At its finest, but had that flock camera on the Highlands Road been working, would have had it a lot sooner. Fortunately, the folks that stole that just kept it in the county. That's a lot of times that's not the case. They get it out of the county. But unfortunately,
and Sheriff, look, I don't disagree that this is a tool that would help you.
Yeah.
Okay. What I do disagree with is I don't need to leave Macon County, North Carolina, and go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and pass by 100 cameras. That's where the footprint is. If you put my tag number in there, and my tag, and I go by one of the cameras in South Carolina, it alerts local law enforcement there that I'm in their district. Does it not?
That's right.
Yeah. So
no, it doesn't. If that said agency does not have your tag number in a hot list, it's not going to alert them. It's going to alert us.
You have the hot list, and you are connected to multiple law enforcement agencies.
That's right.
Through this
we
collab.
were. Yes,
okay.
we were. Yes.
So, all right. So if that's not the case, if it doesn't alert automatically a law enforcement agency, if you saw just what happened up north, wherever there was a vehicle that was being sought after for homicide in a different state, well, that car was in another state. Law enforcement swarmed them at gunpoint. So if it don't connect automatically, how does that work? Because they were alerted somehow.
That's right.
Okay, so, and that's the whole purpose of this, is if, just like NCIC, if you put a tag number in, it sends out an alert across this country.
That's right.
Okay?
Yes.
This right here is the same way. You put the tag number in that you're looking for this and why you're looking for it. And you're connected to different agencies, and those agencies will find if that vehicle goes into their system, it will alert them that that car's in your...
Listen,
I don't know the answer to that, but maybe they found it by NCIC. I think we're beating this horse to absolute death. And the thing about hot lists and all these other things, if I had a hot list of 150 people and I saw every camera, every tag that was on a hot list in the United States of America, I wouldn't be able to pick up my phone.
That's right.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
If I had your tag...
We voted them out. We've said we don't want the cameras. The companies come and pick them up. What are we doing?
Well, I would like...
Because if we're trying to ban, like my hesitation with this, banning all third-party, somebody mentioned Axon. Well, that's the body cameras. Isn't there like a federal mandate that you got to have body cameras now? I mean, I just feel like we're getting into a situation that's not we're not attorneys. And until this is litigated out and what it says in the Constitution and all the things, we've banned the cameras, we've gotten rid of the cameras. We can't stop the state from coming in and putting cameras on their property. You can't stop me from putting flood cameras on my property. I feel like we are just wasting a lot of time right now talking about something that we probably need to have someone else researching this besides...
Well, that's what I'm asking for. That's what I'm asking for. But when you're talking about body cams, that body cam footage does not go to any other law enforcement agency.
It goes to the cloud. Anybody can hack the cloud.
I want to go back to my question. Do we have cameras? If my skid steer got stolen again, can you help me recover it?
Well, we utilize deer cameras. But is there a camera out there that would go to a cloud-based system that's us or a server-based system?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I'll have to research that. I don't know.
I don't want to handcuff the men and women that are out there really trying to do their job whenever we have technology, but if it's the surveillance that's the problem.
Macon County, they got it.
I mean, having a camera to catch a tag number with a stolen truck, everything handy.
It's there's a lot more to this, but I will say one other thing that when I came back from Myrtle Beach the other day and I got off 95 onto 20, every mile all the way across 20, 26 to Newberry County, every mile there's a surveillance camera right there. Government installed. Now that's real time. They can't record from that, but law enforcement uses that to watch movements from a vehicle. If they enter 20, law enforcement sitting there watching that, exactly where it goes, exactly what exit it is, and everything else. That is government overreach any way you look at it, and it needs to stop. And that's my whole point with this. It's not to shortfall him. It's not to shortfall anybody. It's to show appreciation to the men and women in uniform, but yet at the same time protect your God-given rights that was not given to us by the government. But the government is taking it away from us every single day. And I don't like it. It's that simple.
I'll research that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Moving on.
Yeah. So could we task council to look into this and see what we have here to protect the citizens from third-party mass surveillance tracking systems? And obviously there's a state law that gives the SBI a guaranteed right to put these systems in state right-of-ways. We can't block that. We can't block anybody from putting these on private property.
Yeah, can we just ask council now to address some of this stuff? Because didn't you email us some information?
Well, I mean, I've sent an email. I guess I'm not sure. I mean, at this point, I think the only thing we could do would be regulate the financial, as far as the county commissioners, would be to regulate the financial dollars being spent on county-owned properties. on county-owned cameras. I mean, I don't know, I mean, if the state comes in or the DOT or the feds or whoever puts, as you suggested, a camera every mile on every single thing, this wouldn't do anything for that. And we don't have any county-owned roads. So we really don't have any county-owned right-of-way. So I guess, to answer the question, I would presume that the county Board of Commissioners authority would only be the ability to have a policy regarding county-financed cameras. And whether or not you all would believe that would address the issue that is concern is up to y'all.
I think you would also have to clarify what cameras you're talking about and what the definition is of AI or what other technology, because we have security cameras on the outsides and of some of our buildings, so
Warren.
we have to be
And
careful.
transit has.
We have cameras on all of our vehicles.
Right. We'd have to
Sheriff's
be
in-car
careful on how we worded that.
I just feel like we've done everything that we could probably do. I mean, we can throw all this stuff at it, but what weight does it hold?
So my question is, your cameras, who's it shared with? The transit.
Cloud based.
But who has access to it? People in California?
Our software company.
Okay.
Does.
But you don't share that data?
Unless it's asked for by a rec.
Right, okay, so that's exactly what it's intended for. It's for liability purposes only. Your in-car cameras, what are they for?
Discovery, ultimately.
Okay.
In the event of a chase or a crime, etc.
So does the federal government have access to those?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
No, sir.
So we're talking about two absolutely, totally different ideas here.
But we've already addressed the flux. Like, we've already addressed that and voted against them.
Right.
The company's coming to
John,
us.
But
what are you asking for?
There's a company called Axon that's right behind this. And I want to make sure that we don't bring these companies in here to share your data and his data and everybody in Macon County's data across the country.
So I understand what you're wanting there.
Yeah.
What are we asking? Like, what are we needing to do? What are we asking? Are we asking council to do something here? Like, what are we doing?
I would like, in my mind, I would like for this type of system to be absolutely identified and be banned from all county-owned property.
Well, I don't think that the sheriff would dare come and ask for any other company to have cameras in our county.
No.
And we wouldn't approve it because we've just done that. I feel like we're just putting a lot of fear propaganda.
Okay.
I feel like my problem with this is, I mean, are we in our lane? Right?
Well, that's right.
I understand that, our role, but sheriff's elected.
Exactly.
I feel like this is his baby. And we defunded the flock cameras, which is what we can do. I think that's in our lane.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Honestly, I hate to load his wagon, but I feel like this is his baby.
Right.
And next year's budget comes around,
well,
that's how we prevent this.
Well, Chairman, let's turn back the clock. Nobody on this board knew about these cameras. They've been here for 2 months or 2 years.
I know those cameras.
They've been here for 2 years. We didn't have a clue. That's what I'm trying to stop. Is not this stuff of this company is very secretive. This company is very. They're a mess, and ultimately.
All due respect, John, it's in the budget.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. I get it, Commissioner.
As it stands, John, this board, obviously, we know where we stand with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us are in agreement with it. So as it stands for this current board, we're okay.
Okay, and I really appreciate that. But everybody in the county needed to hear that. And that's why we're talking about it, because I've been overwhelmed by concerned citizens that want to make sure that they are protected against any type of this action ever again.
So we've clarified that.
Okay.
We definitely made it. So.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate, I mean, it's all
And I
about
appreciate your
transparency.
research on it, but I'm just saying, just for
Yeah.
the sake of moving on, we've clarified that for everyone to understand exactly what our position is.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Also, the Fourth Circuit will have a ruling hopefully by the end of the year, one way or another, whether it's unconstitutional or constitutional. Food for thought.
Yeah, and just a couple more things about that. If the second largest law enforcement agency in this country did away with their contract with Flock Group, Flock Safety, there's no telling how many attorneys that work in their agency, and they did away with it. So that ought to open up all of our little bitty communities' eyes that there's problems with this system. So, and I appreciate y'all's vote on that and supporting the people.
LAPD got rid of their flock cameras because they were theirs for free, like a trial period, and they just didn't renew it. That's it.
Yeah, out of concerns.
Not necessarily out of dollar figures, because the amount of cameras they had was millions and millions of dollars.
Most, yeah.
I'm gonna move
yeah.
on to
Okay,
consent
thank you, Chairman.
All right. Has everybody reviewed the consent agenda?
Yes.
Any thoughts? Your motion by Commissioner Reagan, second by Commissioner Antoine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye to the record. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. We have 2 seats open on the CHSA board.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll start that conversation. Eric can finish if he needs to. You remember, seems like ages ago, but back in January, we consolidated the health department into a consolidated agency. We had some members then that their terms were very short, and when we reappointed those folks, we decided at that time that when their term was up, which is 6 months, we would reappoint them back to their positions to continue on with the CHSA board. Those 2 positions are Matt Corbin and Garrett Higdon, which are your dentist positions and your engineer positions. So obviously we've had trouble filling those in the past as well. So that was part of your consideration at the time, but because of the short time frame, created the new board, put them in, they were going to have a very short time to be there. That was the decision you made back then. So at this point, we would accept a motion from y'all to reappoint those folks unless you want to go some other different direction.
We can get them both in one motion?
Yes, sir. Make a motion that we reappoint Garrett Higdon and Matt Corbin to the CHSA board.
We have a motion by Commissioner Breeden, second by Commissioner Shields. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Do we have a need for a closed session?
No, sir.
I don't. Unless y'all do.
Need a motion to adjourn? Commissioner Breeden, Commissioner Antoine, all in favor? Aye.